Okay, so the Exploratory online seminar number 35, how to start Exploratory for Excel users, part 1. So we have a lot of users using Exploratory, but used to be using Excel or still using Excel. But when you transition from Excel to Exploratory, as much as we said, hey, Exploratory is much easier, more capable, but the problem is, people used to the way things are in Excel. So there's a sort of like dialects in Excel or dialects in Exploratory. So there's some kind of like hurdle sometimes you have to jump through when you transition. From Excel to Exploratory. So based on like feedback we get from our users, we compile the list of the things that you wish you would have known when you started Exploratory or transitioning from Excel. So that's the list that we compile, and then I like to basically go through it to make sure you have sort of like a smoother way. You find a smoother way to transition. Okay, so we have compiled this is a long list and 11 list, and mostly it turned out, creating the charts in Exploratory, people don't really find the problems. Where people find the problem is something to do with the data wrangling, basically data transformation, the cleaning up the data, that type of thing. So most of the stuff, basically all of them are actually data wrangling topics. Except the first one, obviously. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to cover this from 1 to 6 in this part 1, and then the rest is going to be the next week as a part 2. So first, import CSV or Excel data. We're going to use the sales data that has a maybe 10 or 12 columns, and then each row represents an order of a product from a given customer. Okay, and then you want to import this data. I'm going to just kind of start more like kind of live demo way. So when you import, you click on this plus button, and if that data is a file, then obviously you want to select the file. If your data is in a database, you go to the database data. And this time, I like to go with using CSV data. If you have Excel data, then you want to use actually the Excel. So the entry points are slightly different, but what you do is exactly the same. So like I'm going to select the CSV, and then this time I'm going to select the data I was talking about. And where's that? Okay, here we go. Oops, I opened the wrong one, sorry. Here. Okay, so this global sales Excel English CSV. So I opened this, and then this is what you see. This is a data preview import dialog. So immediately you notice something kind of weird. That is this part. The header or the column header is like X2, X3 instead of the column names. And the column names actually in the row 2. And that is because the original file had, where is that? So original file had the 2 empty rows. And this happens a lot with the CSV or even like Excel data. So if that's the case, you want to make sure you want to skip those rows because those are not really necessary for your other data. So you can actually skip it on the left-hand side. There are a bunch of different type of the parameters, and this is most often used. So in this case, the first and the second, in this original data, the first and second rows are not necessary. So I'm going to just type on 2 and then click on apply button again and make sure the data has been recognized correctly. So in this case, it looks okay. You can always go to that row tab and make sure what's the original data look like instead of like opening that in Excel. But now that looks okay. So like I'm going to go ahead, click on this save button, and then name the data frame. So everything that data is at the unit is called data frame in Exploratory. So I'm going to just select that, and then let's say global sales, and then click the OK button, and then now I got the new data frames being imported. And the moment it's imported, you see the summary view that gives you the summary information for each column. Okay, so there are two things I like to actually note on this importing things. So sometimes this is probably, as long as you use like English data or Latin language data, you won't see this problem. But you happen to be dealing with like multivide or maybe like East European characters, sometimes you get this type of error. The data is not read correctly, not imported correctly or something. And most often, like you get this sort of like a character set encoding problem. So in that case, you want to set the right encoding. So like let's say your file was encoded in like, maybe like Russian encoding or something like that, then you want to select the appropriate one for the data. So that's something to know. And another area we see, we often hear the problem is the time zone. And the time zone is actually really tricky. When your data includes time, the data we just imported didn't have time information, only the date information. But for example, something like this, right? So it's kind of hard to see, but at the center of this data, it says T. And the right side of the T is actually the time. And then sometimes the data includes a time zone information. Like you notice that like right side of that data value plus 0000, meaning like, basically zero, meaning the 0 second from the standard time zone, which is actually the Greenwich time zone or like UK time zone. So you can see the time zone data in time zone information in the data. Then when you import and it correctly, export it correctly, recognize the time zone and convert it to whatever the way it's appropriate. But sometimes there's no time zone information. So only the person who creates data know what time this is supposed to be. This 4 o'clock is like 4 p.m. in Eastern time or Pacific time. You're the only one who knows, right? So then when you import, Exploratory thinks, oh, this must be in your default time zone, and the default time zone is based on your locale setting on Mac or Windows. Let's say like your locale is sorry, I think locale includes the time zone. So if it successfully can read the locale information, I mean like a time zone information from your PC, then it will use it. Otherwise, it's going to default back to a GMT or something. And if you don't like it, let's say like, hey, you know what? Even though my PC setting or my environment setting is Pacific time, US Pacific time zone, but I know this data I just got from Japanese guy, and this is supposed to be Japanese time zone. Then in that case, you can actually change it from the time zone setting. And whatever the time zone that is supposed to be the one for the data, then you want to pick that one. And sometimes you deal with that type of data all the time, and you kind of, it's kind of cumbersome to change this time zone every single time. In that case, you can go to the configuration, like system configuration dialog, and then you can set your default time zone. So then like every time like you open, this time zone is going to be used. Okay. And then after that, you just import the data like I just did. Okay, so that's importing the data. And the next one, the converting the data type. And converting the data type, I mean, it has a lot. I mean, like in any combination from character to numeric, numeric to character, or not only this, data type, but also there are other data types like logical or factor and all that. But these are the very, very main things we hear from our users. So from character to date time and the character to numeric data type. So let's start with the date time. So here, typically, Exploratory, when it imports the data and it recognizes the appropriate data type, and then if the data has date information, it typically recognizes as date. However, sometimes it fails to recognize an appropriate one. Sometimes, data is not formatted in the way it's expected. So in that case, it becomes a character data type. For example, this data has a slash between those numbers instead of hyphen. So in that case, somehow it thinks it's a character. But you can actually change it. Like let's say go back to the exploratory here, and then this one, like order date. This is obviously date information. When you go to the table view, it's probably easier to see. This should be date, and if you don't change it, and it will like an exploratory, the system will keep thinking this is a character or the categorical data, and then you can't really visualize the right way and so on. So when you see something like this and you want to convert this as quick as possible so that you have much more options to do visualization analysis later. Anyway, so from the column header menu, there's a change data type. And then in this case, what I want to do is convert to date and time. And then underneath, there are tons of options. But what's important here is that you recognize what is the order of this data, your data. In this case, I have like year and months and day. And that order is all it matters. So after go here and then under the date time. And then in this case, year, month, day. And I don't have time data in here. So like I don't have to worry about other things. Just only focus on like year, month, day. If I select it, and then I get YMD function. And this function is beautiful. I love it. I mean, this is from R, and it's particularly, there's a R package called Rubridate, and it provides this set of the beautiful functions. Let me just explain a little bit what that is. So YMD, obviously, or might not be obviously, like Y stands for year, M is month, D is day. So it basically tells you the order of the information of the date. And then it also converts, it assumes, okay, whatever the given data is in this order, and then parse it, and then convert that data as the date data type. And what it matters is the order. So what comes between doesn't matter. So for example, the hyphen, slash, or even characters, it doesn't matter. As long as the data you provide or the data you have is presented in that order. And once you do it, it's converted nicely, and then you can see how the data is distributed on that timeline, or in this case, date line. And then also you can see the summary metrics as well. But sometimes the data comes in a different order, maybe like month, day, year, or so. In that case, all it matters is you want to select the month, day, year under the convert to date time. And then this function is called MDY. Again, it stands for the order, in this case, month, day, year. And it correctly parse the data and then convert to date type. What if your data had time? And in that case, you want to make sure you select, in this case, YMD HMS, hour, minute, second. In this case, the data in the example has information till second. And then this will generate HMD underscore HMS. Probably you might already guess. H stands for hour, M stands for minutes, S stands for second. And when you use this function, though, it converts to POSIX CT data type instead of date. So there are two types of data types in Exploratory or in R. The date doesn't have the time information, and POSIX CT has a time information. The POSIX is one of the standard, Unix standard name, but also the last CT stands for calendar time. So that T is a time. So that's how I actually can always recognize. Okay, so let me just finish that up. I didn't close this one. So like I'm gonna click on run button, and then notice here, left-hand side, the order date becomes as a date type. So like now, like I see like nicely histogram being displayed. And then I can even see like when the starting and then when the ending. So like a date range. Okay, so next one is from character to numeric data types. So for example, here, notice that like cells, obviously this is supposed to be numbers, but somehow it's character. When I go to the table view, the same thing, like it's supposed to be. And then somehow like a quantity or discount, these are correctly recognized as a numeric, but not the cells. And the reason is that because it has a dollar sign, which is the character. So in the case, you can do, whatever the things I'm doing, this whole data cleaning up a transformation thing, you can do either in a table or summary, either way. But here, again, like I can convert the data type from the column header menu, change data type, and then convert to number. And this is very simple. All it does is it strips out any letters or characters and keep only the numeric, and then convert that as a numeric data type with that numerical values. So if I click on Run button, then all the columns, like this column becomes a numeric. And then now again, I can see the histogram and see the range of the cells. But notice that there are other columns also. So I can go one by one to convert from these character columns to numeric data type. But I can actually do like all together. So for example, in this case, I'm going to click marketing cost and sales comp, two columns together by command key or control key for Windows. Or if it's in a sequence, you can use a shift key as well. And in any of the column from the column header menu, and change data type and convert numeric. And you get slightly different dialog because in this case, you want to apply this for multiple columns. And then you don't have to do change anything. All you need to do is just click Run button. And then it convert both columns to numerical data types. Okay, so that's the converting that data type. Okay, so next topic is create calculation. And this one is surprisingly, many people have problems because there's such a different dialect to the way you do. Because the thing you want to do is most of the time is very simple. I have this sales column, I want to divide by quantity to calculate the unit price or something like that. And then in Excel, you type equal, and then you type the formula, right? And in the Exploratory, you create something called calculation. So let's do that here as well. So I'm going to go to the table view, and let's find here sales. And then I want to create a calculation by using this column. And I can start from this create calculation menu, and this open create calculation dialog. And once it's open, I basically do the same thing. It's very close to Excel. So in this case, sales divided by quantity. And I'm going to give a name to be like unit price or something like that. And then hit enter. And then hopefully here, I got the new columns. So from here, you can extend to do a lot more things. And also, like you go back to the summary view, and then you can check like the summary information for that newly calculated column. Another type of the calculation is really cool. Is here, let's say like this sales and from the 44 cents to $22,000. There's a huge difference. But I want to know like how many of the orders are greater than $500 sales, right? So what I want to do is something like this. When you have the data in a table format, table view, and then I like to flag any rows, in this case, orders that exceeds $500 for sales. And then those are maybe like I want to flag it as a true, and then otherwise false. Then go later, like I can do like counting all the number of the trues or something. So that's I like to do. And in the case, basically same thing. Every row by row operation, you want to create a calculation for every single row. Then always you want to go to this create calculation. There's another type of operation similar to calculation. It's called summarize or aggregate. That is a topic I'm going to cover next week. But this one is a kind of row by row operation. So create calculation, and then this time I want to also type something like greater than. This is a greater than logical operator, and then I just type like 500. And this is kind of like a weird, especially you come from a different tools because this is normal in R, and the export is built on top of R. But this is a logical operator. Typically, you use something like this in a filter, but you can actually present this condition as a calculation. And what this is going to do is it's going to evaluate every single row. And then if the condition matches, then it returns true, otherwise false. And so I'm going to just name it, and then maybe sales greater than 500. That's a new column name, and I click run button, and I get the new columns. And then like I can see like, okay, so such orders were 6,498. And then those are like 13% of the orders were greater than $500. And this is actually pretty cool. Like you get this kind of answer right away. But also don't forget, here's a highlight button. You might want to give it a shot. So if I go to the highlight view, then I can highlight only those orders. What I mean is I'm going to select the sales greater than 500. And I have the option is true or false. And then I'm going to just click run button. And then this is going to give me the portion or ratio of such orders. So for example, in the category, I can see like a tech and furniture. These are the categories that has higher ratio of greater than $500 orders and so on. Okay, so that's the calculation. It's logical calculation. There are little variations to it too. So what if like I want to do the equal? What if like I want to do other operators? So there are other types. And then let's say like if you want to do the equal, let's say like I want to flag true if the sales is equal to 500. Then you can use equal. The one thing though, you have to use double equal instead of just equal. So that's one thing. And if that's actually kind of cool because if you want to say not equal, then instead of double equal, you want to type exclamation mark and equal. So that's a not equals operator. Other thing is if you're working on the categorical data, like a character columns, then the equal sign is the same. So let's say like I want to say like a category equal tech or something like that. But any letters needs to be surrounded by the double quote or single quote, either way, as long as they are corresponding. Okay, so that's the create calculation. The filter I want to cover. The filter is, like you do that all the time in Excel. But there's three types of filters. There are still more, but I think these are main things like you see. So step filter, chart filter. This chart filter can be used the same. Analytics also has a similar filter as well. And the table view filter. So let's start with the step filter. We have order date column, and then looks like range is from 2017 to 2020. What if like I said like, hey, I want to filter only for 2020 data, and let's do that here. From the column header menu, select the filter, and there are a bunch of different options. I'm not going to go into the too much detail here. I'm planning to do one seminar sometime later, maybe next month, just focusing on filter area. But here, I want to just go over like very basic stuff. So like I said, I want to see only for the 2020. So I'm going to select equal to, and I'm going to select year. And then when I select this, in the filter dialog, I can just type 2020 because how to set value is already set to 2000 year. So this is very kind of convenient. And then like I'm gonna just click on run button, and I get only the 2020 data, 2020 January 1st to looks like this year we have only data through November 30th. Okay, so that's good. And then I'm going to just click on this chart button to create the chart. And then I get the chart with this bar chart. And then I can change it, for example, in the chart. Like, let's say, hey, you know what? Like, I want to aggregate by the weekly, or I want to aggregate by the quarter, and so on. I'm going to just keep it the month for now. And then I can change the chart type from bar or line or other chart type as well. I'm going to change to the line chart for this one. And then also, hey, I want to actually make the different cities. Let's say like one by the technology. No, sorry, the product subcategory or something like that. So in that case, basically, you want to group. You want to create multiple groups, right? So you want to use color. That's a kind of typical way to do it. And then I'm going to select the subcategory. Now I think it was like a 13 subcategories or so. I forgot how many subcategories I have here. 17, excuse me. We have 17, so like we have 17 subcategories listed here, and each subcategory is represented by the different color. So now, what if, like I said, you know what, like I want to see one category. By the way, so here, data subcategory is kind of like a lower level, but a category is the one up higher. So inside, category, let's say like office supplies, maybe there's a desk and chair, and those are the subcategory. So if I go to the chart, I want to see only for like office supplies or as a category, or maybe technology as a category or something like that. You can create a step filter the same way like I create a step filter for keeping only 2020 data. In that case, I can click on this Add New button, or I can go to the table view and select the column header menu, either way. But I don't want to change the entire data set. I want to just filter only for this data. And then I want to create another chart is focusing on different category or something. So what I mean by that is I'm going to just use this here. That's a chart filter. This filter only impacts on this data, whatever the data is viewed in the chart. So I'm going to go here and set the category equal to, let's say like I want to see only the furniture or something, and then run. And then now I'm looking at the furniture data in this chart. But when I go to the table view, I still see different type of the category because I didn't create the step filter. So therefore, the underlying data hasn't changed. Only the data I'm seeing inside the chart has changed. And this is actually cool because if I duplicate this chart, and then this time, let's say like I'm going to filter for the office or something, and then click on this chart filter, change the category value to office supplies, and then now like I'm looking at the office supply subcategories. Okay, so now like I have two charts. One is for furniture, the other one is office supply. And I can do this because the data at this point, like step 5, still as a whole data. Okay, so basically it's kind of like this. So right-hand side, the step. So I import the data, create a calculation, and I create a filter. And each step has its own sort of like a data. So it's kind of snapshot data or the data of that state or that step, right? And then you can create a chart from any step, and then you can create multiple chart from the same step, or you can actually apply the filter just like I did for a particular chart in a particular way. So it's very convenient. And then, I'm not going to cover this this seminar, but later on, like when you want to create note or dashboard, this is going to be very beneficial. Anyway, so now right now, looking at here, because all the charts are actually pinned to the step 5, so therefore, whatever the data we are looking at in this chart is coming from the step 5. But that means whatever the data we are looking at is only for 2020 data. But because the pin button is pointing to the step 5, what if like we want to see the whole data, not just 2020? And that's where like you want to actually adjust this pin button. So if I move this pin button to step 4, now the data we are looking at is not filtered because they're directly coming from the step 4, didn't go to the step. We are not looking at the step 5 data. So this way, like you can create multiple charts coming from the different steps, and so you have a lot of potential possibility of like it's very flexible to create charts as well. Okay, so that's the chart filter, and the last one is a table filter. So when you go to the table view, it's kind of like a chart filter. When you create a filter here, that filter only affects only this view. Again, you're not creating a new step here. So sometimes, hey, you know what? I want to see like a particular product. There is a, let's say, a smartphone here. Like I want to see like, you know, what type of the orders are there. So I can click on filter button and then let's say like a product name, um, maybe like a contains. This is the text. So I'm going to use a contains and smartphone, just in case I'm gonna ignore the uppercase or lowercase kind of stuff, and then just run. And then this 117 rows or orders, these are the ones have something to do with the smartphone. And of course, the data right now we are looking at is a 2020. How about the whole years? And then like I have 388 rows. Those are smartphone. Again, this is a filter, has nothing to do with the actual data. Actual data at this step is 49,000. But I filter. So this filter only affects whatever the data is being viewed in this table view, in the table. I'm going to just remove this for now. And then, so that's a table filter. Okay. So let's go to the next topic, the replace values. And if you are Excel, you replace the values from, let's say, Mac to Mac OS or whatever, and you can do it in the exploratory in a different way. So go to the summary view. Notice that here, the category column, I see like a tech and the technology. Those are considered and recognized as two different category. But I want to see like, how many orders were technology related. So in order to do it, like, I'm going to change this tech to technology. So in that case, from the column header menu to the replace values, there's a different way to replace values, but I'm going to go with this with new values. And in this one, basically kind of one-to-one mapping. So if it's technology, and then if I don't set any rules, then those are going to be kept as is. So in this case, I'm going to just set technology like that, and then click run. And then other values is going to be like furniture is furniture. But if you want to set like other values, let's say like non-technology or something like that, then you can click on this checkbox and then type the default values as well. In this case, I want to just keep as is for the others. So I'm going to just keep on the technology and then run button. And then I overrode it. So the now category column has only 3 values. Okay. And then the other way to change the values, for example, like, hey, if I wanted to make it like a tech instead of technology, and I wanted to remove knowledge case, and in that case, you want to start working on text data wrangling stuff, which I will cover in the next part 2 seminar next week. Okay. So that's a replace values. And the next one, and the last one for today is a join, add columns from another data frame. And this is usually like you use VLOOKUP, and then I think there are some variations to it too, but this is kind of typical way of pointing to another data and then bring that extra column from the reference data. And in Exploratory, we have a UI to do it. So in that case here, before doing so, we have this like a sales data. What's actually missing is a customer. We have a customer ID, but we don't have any information about this particular each customer. So I'm going to import the customer attribute data from another CSV file here. and then it looks okay. I don't even have to skip the first couple rows or anything like that. And the only thing, like I want to just import this data as a different data frame. So now I have two data frame. So one is here, customer attribute data, and then global sales. Okay. So now this custom attribute, it has an ID, and then it's a name and a segment and where they live type of information. And then when I go back to global sales, basically I want to use this custom ID. This ID is the same as the ID in the other data frame, and I want to combine these two. So to do it, like from column header menu, select the join add the columns. And then in this join data frame, dialog, I want to select the target data frame, in this case, customer attribute data. And then I want to select how I want to match these two data frame together. Well, I want to use a custom ID from this data frame, and I want to use an ID from the target data frame. And then click Run button. And then once that's done, the new columns being added. This orange or kind of orange-brown color highlighted columns are the columns that is from this reference data frame or target data frame. Sometimes we get the questions, hey, like I want to select only the columns. I mean, not all the columns. Right now, like you have to work on that on the target data frame. So let's say like, hey, you know what, this data frame, I want to bring only this much. Other one, like I don't care. Then you want to select the columns this way. And then when you go back to the main data frame, and then you have only the columns that are selected in that in this data frame. And then, but sometimes, hey, you know what? Like I'm doing some kind of analysis on this particular data frame, so I don't want to change the columns. I just want to impact on that global sales data frame. In that case, you might want to try creating a branch data frame. Branch data frame is basically to create a branch literally, and then for sort of subset of the data frame. So like one data frame that share the source step or a few steps together, and then you can have like multiple data sources in a kind of parallel way. So you can click on the branch data frame, and then now like I have the kind of child data frame. And then here I can select, you know what, like I want to select only this number of the columns. And then I'm going to use this data frame for the join, but I want to continue on like my regular analysis on this particular data set or something. So I'm going to just delete this. And then when I go back to the main data frame and I open this join dialog, instead of the main data frame, I can actually select the branch data frame. And if I run it again, I get only the columns that are selected in that branch data frame. Okay. So, and a couple things around the join. So first of all, basically what we do, what you want to do is selecting the join key, right? So in this case, we're using the custom ID and ID. So from two data frames and then using join key. And then basically looking at, for example, the first custom ID is AA101, and hey, looks like it's matching. So bring that, whatever the matching row, and then combine that as a new data, as a updated data frame. But sometimes there's an uppercase and lowercase included. This ID usually is not much, but sometimes if you want to join by the name, customer name, and then there's a uppercase and lowercase and stuff. So you can click on this case insensitive join. Then right before it joins, it make all the cases to be lowercase behind the scene and then match together, and then bring it back to original cases on something. So in case insensitive way, it joined two data frames together. Other things you want to be careful is here. This is an example. So left-hand side, again, the sales data. Right-hand side is the customer attribute data. So now, like let's say like we set join key. If we use name columns for the join key. right? And then what's going to happen with this data is that you end up like kind of duplicated rows. So notice that Tom in the blue highlighted left-hand side, and then there's another Tom in the red color highlighted. Both of them, actually, they're different Tom. One is from US, one is from UK. And then right-hand side, too, there's a Tom from US and Tom from UK. But however, if you set only the name column as a join key, and then what it's going to do is like the first Tom on the left-hand side finds, hey, the two matching rows. So it joined with the two matching rows. So ended up the Tom US ended up like becoming having the two rows. And then Tom US and also Tom US get joined, and then Tom US left-hand side and Tom UK on the right-hand side get joined as well. And then and then same thing for the UK Tom. But obviously, this is not what you want, right? It's like what you expect is a Tom US to Tom US, Tom UK to Tom UK. In that case, you want to add country also as a join key. Then it's going to use both information to match. So Tom US gets joined with Tom US. The same thing for the UK. And then like, you ended up having the same number of rows as a result. So you want to make sure once you do the join, when you do the join, you want to make sure whatever the key columns you're using is going to uniquely matching the target data frame. And sometimes it doesn't have to be unique. You know, sometimes intentionally you might have like multiple entries on the right-hand side. So that's the case. If that's the case, that's okay. But you want to make sure what you're getting is what you expected. Easier way to do is you have like a 1,000 rows in the main data frame, and when you do the join, just to get the attribute data, but somehow you get like 2,000 rows or like maybe 10,000 rows, a lot of like more rows as a result. That's when like you want to make sure that's why you wanted it, or that's kind of unexpected or not. Okay. So in order to assign two join keys, you click on this green plus button, and then you assign another join key columns. Okay. Other thing is there are a bunch of other, I don't know, maybe like like 6 various join methods. So the one we use as the default, the left join. Left join is like we use left or right, but like left is always the main data frame that you're working on. Right is usually the target data frame. And so that in this case, main data frame is, obviously main. And then when you start with let's say 1,000 rows, and then you want to bring that target data frame columns. And then if there's a missing value, if the original data can't find the corresponding rows in the target, and it just ignores it. Just but keeps those rows in the main data frame, and then assign an A for those columns that are supposed to come. So that's a left join, but there are others, and I don't have enough time to go into detail. But I have created more detailed notes, and also like I think I created a video, so you might want to open these notes if you want to understand more detail on those various options. Take a look at that, or you want to check our video tutorial. You can access from our homepage as well under the learning tab. Okay. So, and then also another thing is when you do the join, always I recommend go to the summary view and make sure data looks okay. Typically, when the main data frame you have, and somehow, let's say like you want to match with a country or something, country name or something, and then most of the country name have found the corresponding rows in the target, but somehow few rows might be missing. And it typically happens is like whatever the main data frame you have, country, the country name is US, but then the target was using United States or something. And in that case, US can't find corresponding rows. So what is going to happen is, again, when you use a left join, it will leave as NA for that particular such rows, in this case, US. So then you ended up seeing, like, for example, all the rows all of this like orange brown highlighted rows have the same number of NA rows. So that's a sort of like a sign. Hey, it looks like some rows fail to do the join. I said like there are various types of joins. One of them is called um, here. One of them called semi-join. It keeps only the rows that exist in the target. Or the other is an anti-join, which keeps only the rows that can't find the corresponding rows in the target. You might want to use this to see like what are the rows that fail to find the corresponding rows. Or you can go to table view and use that table filter and keep only the NA rows. And then like you see like, oh, you know what, maybe like this US is the one who's missing. And then you might want to actually clean up the data first before you do the join. In that case, there's a country code conversion from country name to country code. And that's I typically use. Okay, so that's a kind of side note. But that's it for today, the part one. And then next week, I like to cover the part two. I like to do the part two to cover the summarize and then condition, like if else type of the condition, and then a merge. We've done like add columns to merge. I mean combine two data frame. Sometimes you want to merge rows instead of columns, and that's the this merge topic. And then you want to do we want to cover like transforming the wide data to long data. That's the concept I'm going to introduce next week. And then the last one is that most sort of like the time like you actually have to work with the text data wrangling stuff. So there's a special UI for text data wrangling and the extract, replace, remove, convert. And that's the topic I like to cover next week. And then you can go check the detail information about our online seminar, go to the exploratory.io, go to learn and the online seminar. And then underneath, you can see the future events, but also past, there's a link to past events as well. So you might want to go check that as well. Okay, so having said that, that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, or we have the exploratory data Twitter. So you want to follow that, and we keep providing some useful tips and then this type of the event announcements as well. Okay, so having said that, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or raise a question in the chat window.